Hello, and welcome to How to Successfully Deal with International Competition, a playbook for Eastern Washington business. I am Jessica Kirk, the Director of Business Retention, Expansion, and Startup for Greater Spokane Incorporated, and your MC for today's event. At GSI, our mission is to lead transformative businesses and community initiatives to build a robust regional economy. Today, we are pleased to share with you valuable information for our region's manufacturers who face import competition. Our special guests from the Northwest Trade Adjustment Assistance Center will be talking about Matching Funds Grant Program designed to assist companies negatively impacted by trade competition. With me today for this conversation is Stacy Nelson, Executive Director for the Inland Northwest Aerospace Consortium. INWAC serves as the aerospace manufacturer along with the I-90 corridor and promotes our region's supply chain throughout the Northwest and around the world. Stacy, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Jessica. It's great to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to help promote this program to INWAC companies and other manufacturers in the region.
Thank you. In an ongoing effort to introduce Eastern Washington businesses to local and regional experts, today I have with me David Holbert and Ken Winninger. David is the Executive Director of Northwest TAC in Seattle, and Ken is the organization's Director of Client Development. Northwest TAC administers TAF for the U.S. Department of Commerce, Economic Development Administration in 4 Western states. Northwest TAC is a part of the national network of 11 independent nonprofit organizations and universities that manage TAF programs. Today, Ken will provide a brief overview of the program, including several examples of firms Northwest TAC has worked with, focusing on how the firms transitioned or pivoted, and in some cases, effectively reinvented themselves utilizing the Match Grant Program. Then David and Stacy will explore the program in greater depth through a series of questions most often asked of attendees in similar live events. Lastly, David will describe the steps needed for firms to qualify for the program. Now, let's turn this conversation over to Ken.
Thank you for your kind introduction, Jesse. Hello, everyone. Northwest Trade Adjustment Assistance Center, or Northwest TAC, serves Alaska, Idaho, Washington, and Oregon. Northwest TAC is one of 11 not-for-profit trade adjustment assistance centers in the U.S. The trade adjustment assistance programs were first authorized by Congress in the Trade Expansion Act of 1962 to help workers and firms adapt to import competition. Many of you are familiar with the Trade Act for Workers, often referred to simply as the Trade Act. A few months ago, laid-off Boeing employees were ruled eligible for additional federally funded assistance under the Trade Act for Workers that offers extended unemployment benefits for up to 2 years while workers are enrolled in retraining courses. In Washington State, the TAA program will benefit about 5,000 members of the IAM and 1,500 members of SPIA, as well as 2,500 non-union Boeing employees set to lose their jobs in the state. Today, I'll be addressing the Trade Act for Firms program. Eligible companies can receive up to $75,000 in matching funds to implement projects aimed at re-energizing business development strategies, improving a firm's ability to compete, improving sales growth, new market development, efficiencies, and more. For over 50 years, the organization has helped hundreds of companies in dozens of industries: aerospace, repetitive, job shop, batch and continuous process environments, agriculture, and some service industries representing many thousands of jobs. Small companies in the program have averaged $15 million in revenue with 64 employees. The smallest firms average $500,000 in revenue with 3 employees. The largest firms have revenue approaching $200 million with 250 employees. In her introduction, Jessie mentioned that the firms Northwest TAC works with have transitioned or pivoted, in some cases effectively reinventing themselves. Some accomplish this through critical changes in their manufacturing process. Others changed their entire business model. Here are a few case studies. A metal component manufacturer implemented a variety of projects in product development and marketing. The company successfully implemented lean manufacturing just prior to Northwest TAC engagement. 2 years prior to engagement, the firm lost 3% of their sales and 2% of their employees. Their primary competition came from China, Mexico, and Canada. They were in the program for 6 years, and over that time, jobs grew by 147%, sales grew by 332%, and productivity grew by 131%. Year-on-year growth was 27%. Prior to working with Northwest TAC, the firm did not have e-commerce capability. Their website now generates a large share of sales in conjunction with an Amazon store. An aluminum parts manufacturer 2 years prior to starting with TAF experienced a 7% drop in sales and a 20% drop in employment. Their import competition was based on lower costs and offshoring from China and Mexico. Northwest TAC worked with management to develop a strategy to transition from contract manufacturing to designing, building, and branding a completely new product. Northwest TAC secured approval of $110,000 for outside expertise with this company, matching at 50%. TAF focused on development and launch of a new product and improved operations. The company's new product was successful, and the contract manufacturing business also recovered, with an overall increase in sales of 228%, a 128% increase in jobs, and a 70% increase in productivity. A Northwest irrigation parts manufacturer experienced a downturn in sales of 5% due to import competition from China and India. Northwest TAC worked with management to review and advise on a strategy to shift focus to a new water conservation product. We secured approval for $30,000 for outside expertise, with the company matching at 25%. The company invested substantial additional funds to fully implement the strategy. Sales of the new proprietary product increased worldwide by 4% as sales of standard irrigation components dropped. Jobs at the firm increased by 67%. The following example is a Pacific Northwest tree nut grower. Their competition was based on lower cost imports from Turkey and Canada. 2 years prior to starting TAF, they experienced a drop in sales and employment of 33%. Northwest TAC worked with the management to develop a strategy to shift and transition the company's focus on value added rather than bulk sales. Northwest TAC secured approval of $30,000 for outside expertise, with the company matching at 25% or $7,500. The firm employed $22,000 of TAF assistants over 5 years with outstanding results. Sales were up by 1,416%, job growth of 200%, and productivity improvement increased by 405%. At closing, the company greatly expanded, experiencing continued growth and national recognition. In order for a firm to be eligible, net sales and average employment must show at least a 5% decline, and that decline must at least partially be attributed to imports. Companies facing import competition find they can't win by trying harder. They have to change. Change in small companies is often led or facilitated by outside expertise. That's a key component of the program, utilizing outside expertise to assist a firm on a path to better compete with imports. Dr. W. Edwards Deming, considered by many the father of continuous improvement in quality, stated during a global presentation to General Motors in 1992 that profound knowledge comes from outside of the organization. It's important to note that with the Trade Adjustment for Firms program, our clients scope the projects and select the vendors who are vetted by Northwest TAC. The vendors provide expertise in marketing and branding, internet, social media presence, production process, quality systems, information systems, product development, and a whole lot more. All projects are customized by and for the client. Northwest TAC completed a review of 53 client firms that participated in our program from 2011 to 2015. 39 of those firms were in manufacturing, 13 in agriculture, and 1 provided services that competed directly with imports. The company cited foreign competition mainly from China and Canada. They also cited countries of Chile, Korea, Taiwan, and Russia. Their recovery strategies ranged from a focus on market, expansion capabilities, new products, same market, improvement in operations, stabilization, and market expansion. Prior to entering the program, these firms in the aggregate experienced a loss of sales of 19%, a loss of employment of 11%, and a loss of productivity of 8%. With an average term of 3.9 years, those same firms experienced again in the aggregate a 29% improvement in sales, an 8% growth in employment, and a 20% improvement in productivity. Up until the beginning of the pandemic, some firms may not have been eligible for the matching funds program because of the loss of employment requirement in our program, which needs to be at least 5%. Now, with the high employment rates throughout the state of Washington, more firms may qualify, as holding on to even the most valuable employees may not be a sustainable tactic. Thanks very much, and we look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Ken, for that great overview. Now I'd like to reintroduce Stacy, who will discuss with David about what Northwest TAC is doing to assist companies that are facing challenging foreign competition.
Thanks, Jessica. And David, thank you for being here today. It was a great overview by Ken, and look forward to getting a little more into some of that information he shared in this Q&A. First thing, I know Ken talked about it briefly, but could you tell us a little bit more about what kind of companies can apply for this program?
Sure, and thank you very much for inviting me. I'm happy to be here and appreciate it very much. So the program is for all traded sector companies. That would be nearly all manufacturers, some agriculture, many services. They're independent entities, not divisions of companies or locations. They have to show a recent decline in sales and employment. In practice, most of the companies in our program are closely held, family-owned, and under $50 million in sales.
Great. And you talk about the decline in sales and employment. How do companies prove that?
It's done through a formal document called a petition. It includes documents which are attached, such as financial statements and quarterly payroll tax summaries. Our office completes that petition for the companies, and so the company's role is pulling the documents that we ask for, basically.
Oh, that's great. So it's not, so it really is information that the company likely has at their fingertips anyway.
It is information that they have, and you avoid the very, complex filling of forms and following of rules. We know all that. We'll do that for you.
Great. And what else, what are some other considerations or factors that would make a company eligible for the program?
Well, one is clearly is the import impact, and that's proven by confirmation from a few of the customers. They reply in an email to us. We initiate that, and we provide the exact language. It's a known path how to do this.
Okay, great.
So
that is helpful for companies that might feel overwhelmed at the thought of it, even though they might actually be eligible.
Well, on that customer verification, I should say some companies find that difficult to do, and it may be so, but I just want everybody to know in many years, decades, we've never had a complaint or have been aware of a problem with it. So.
Great. When in the process, or when should a company actually apply to be part of the program?
Yes, this is really important. You need to apply when you qualify, not when you have a project. Notice that you're not submitting projects to be approved on their merit. You're submitting information about your condition. The proposal of projects comes later. So once you've applied, you have 2 years to figure out what to do, and then 5 years to implement. So there's plenty of time to figure out what project to do. Finding uses for the matching fund is not a problem that companies in our program have.
Great. And if a company goes through all those early steps to apply to the program, is the likelihood good that they'll be accepted into the program?
Well, we won't submit a petition unless we are sure. So in fact, usually in a pretty brief phone conversation, we can tell if a company is likely to qualify or not. There's no guarantees, of course, but I should say we have 100% success rate with these petitions. This is not a cross your fingers and hope you get in kind of deal. This is a submit with certainty and wait a certain amount of time for the action to occur.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's encouraging to know as well. In Ken's presentation, he talked about a match, and the varying amounts and matches are different for small companies. Can you take us through that matching percentage and process again?
Yeah. So if a company is under, say, 1.5 million in sales, the best option is to have a 75% program match on $30,000 total of projects. If you're over 1.5 million, there's a sliding scale that tops out at 50% of $150,000 at 3 million in sales. So there's a very short span where there's kind of a sliding scale. But over 3 million in sales, companies get 50% of 150,000 in projects.
Okay, great. A lot of companies probably are in kind of dire straits before they, reach out to you. And so once they get going, though, is it a long process, or how long does it take to actually get started?
Okay, well, this is actually, it's a great program, and people ask what's the catch, and it does take a while. So let me just say a little bit about that. Let's say 6 months. But remember, you have certainty of success. So that's planning time. Let's break it down a little bit. Companies have completed these petitions in a week. It usually takes longer. The Department of Commerce approves the petition in about 2 months. That's not great, but that's what they do. Then, when a company is qualified, that is when you propose what projects to use the fund for. That's done in a business plan type document. Can refer to it in terms of strategic planning. Our office prepares that document. There's a minor cost to it. You have 2 years to make that proposal, but most companies do it right away. You allow 2 weeks to compose this document and a month to have it approved. Then all projects are local approval. All the approval is done. There's no delays. And for a 5-year period, companies use the matching fund for outside expertise. In our exit interviews, I just want to say that when companies look back and talk about the program, nobody complains about how long it took. And it's not unusual for companies to get qualified and then pause and think about what they're going to do. So it sounds like a long time, but in practice, companies don't regret it or find it a problem.
Okay, yeah, that's great to know. You talked about the matching funds there too, and using that over that longer time period. How exactly do companies receive that matching fund benefit?
Okay, so they want to start a project. Pardon me, one that is in the proposal. They select a vendor. We can suggest names if needed. The company approves the proposal or quote. We write the contract, and then work starts. It takes hours and days to get these contracts done, not days and weeks. Vendors then bill as usual. The company pays their share, and then we pay our share. We verify and pay. It happens pretty quickly. There's no outside approvals.
Great, and so it's not a reimbursement situation then. It's
It is not. It is not. So one thing I like to say to companies is that it's business as usual, only you pay half as much. It's not quite that. There's a few little extra things we do because it's a program, but not much. It's almost there.
Yeah, well, that's great. I think that takes away some of the trepidation about having to put out the money and wait for a reimbursement for who knows.
Yeah. No, you don't have that situation.
Yeah. So that not being a problem, what are some things that could possibly go wrong that a company should take into consideration?
Okay, if you think of this program, there's a couple of things. So just to tell you what, to be, fair disclosure, government could alter the program. They have not in any big way for 35 years, but they may. Funding could fall, or a bunch of companies could come in all at once, which would force us to meter out the assistance. But that hasn't been the case, and we work very hard to prevent that situation. Worst case is we would stretch out the funding. And finally, a vendor could opt not to participate. This rarely happens, but when it does, companies can apply the funds to another project.
Do you help them find those companies, the vendors, or is that entirely driven by the customer or by the
Well, it's kind of surprised me when I was working in this program. Most companies know who they want to work with. We're prepared to make suggestions. We've worked with hundreds and hundreds of consultants over the many years we've been here. But the consultant community is highly specialized, and there are many people with great deals of specialization. It's really quite a surprising thing if you're not familiar with it.
Right. Okay, great. Then Ken gave us a couple of case studies in his PowerPoint, which the numbers were really sort of mind-boggling in terms of the success and that the companies realized. Is that normal, or what are some typical outcomes that companies might expect?
Well, it is a surprisingly effective program. There's no guarantees, of course. Let me just say a few things about that. Aggregate results for the program nationally, by office, by state, and by industry are pretty consistent. High survival of firms, sales growth, new jobs, productivity gains. Double digits are normal in productivity. So at Northwest Tech, between 2005 and 2017, the average year-on-year growth for companies in the program was 8.9%. Now that includes a deep recession and recovery. Over 95% of companies survive, and bearing in mind that they all had sometimes a pretty steep decline coming in. Over half exceed their previous high sales levels. Sorry about the phone ringing. All companies had at least a 5% decline. The actual number is closer to 20. We occasionally see 100% plus growth rate in companies exiting the program. 1,000% growth happens once in a while. Ken cited one case. I'm constantly surprised at how these companies do, and I want to emphasize that this is not a claim of our office, my or Ken's or any of our staff's effectiveness. These are the companies using outside knowledge to improve in ways that they know, with the vendors they know, to do the things they know need to be done, and having great results, great outcomes as a result of that.
Boy, those numbers are hard to argue with. So certainly it sounds like there's a lot of upside with very little downside for companies that might qualify for that. We appreciate your time and that insight on the Northwest tax programs, and appreciate your being here today, David. Thanks very much.
Well, thank you again, and I just want to say that good things happen when you put knowledge into companies, particularly that which the companies know they need, and just how proud we are and honored we are to work with these amazing companies, and really courage and dedication that these business owners show to get through a really tough competitive situation.
Yeah, well, in working with at least the aerospace companies in our region, I know that I can attest to the fact that, yes, indeed, we do have a lot of great companies. So to marry those companies up with services that Northwest TAC provides, I think is really a win-win opportunity, and appreciate your taking time today to be with us.
Well, I appreciate it very much.
I'll turn it back over to you for wrap up and maybe some contact information.
Thank you, Stacy, for moderating this match grant program discussion today. And thank you, David, for your time and participation. And Ken, I loved your PowerPoint. It was very insightful.
Thank you.
More information or to learn more about the program and how Northwest TAC might be of assistance to you, please reach out to Ken directly. This recording will be available on all 3 of our websites for your future reference and to share with your colleagues. From NWAC, GSI, and Northwest TAC, take care, stay safe, and remember, together we're greater.
Thanks, everyone.